Hello and welcome to this brand new episode of Magistic Chat. And we have the lovely Jay
Ooh.
Marie. Uh, did I pronounce that correctly? I'm afraid I screwed that up.
Yeah, Jae Marie.
Jay
That's
Marie. So a little bit about me, if you don't already know, I am Chris Allen. I'm an ordained minister from the Fellowship of the Phoenix. I am also a published author. I'm a healer, witch, massage therapist, clinical chaplain, and everything else in between. So, Jay, tell us about yourself. Tell us about who you are and how you got on
everything.
the path of voodoo.
Well,
Well,
okay,
I'm not
cool.
sure we have time for everything, but just
We're gonna smidge
you
as much
know,
as we can in here. All
a
right.
nutshell.
So, in a nutshell, I am a priestess in three forms of voodoo. I am a mama mambo in 21 divisions. I am a mambo serpent in Haitian, and I am a mama mambo also in Louisiana voodoo. I was born into this, true to this, been done this, and is my passion. My life is what I do. I try my best to heal the world through what I do and bring the beauty of voodoo to the world. That's my goal.
So where does voodoo come from? And I know the majority of the people in the audience already know about the beauty of voodoo, but some people who may watch the recording or listen to the podcast may not. So, well, where does voodoo come from, and why do you think it's important today?
Absolutely. So, voodoo actually began in Togo and Benin in Africa. It then spread to Haiti, which spread then to Louisiana. And of course, this was all during the triangular slave trade, which is why some of our practices are rooted in the motherland of Africa, of course. So again, Togo, Benin, Haiti, Louisiana, went up the Nile River of the United States, the Mississippi River, found itself to the Mississippi Delta region, and basically all over the United States. So it has become a religion of the people that has been preserved for literally centuries. Through keeping our practices alive through synchronization, and just gathering the people together, which is a big thing in voodoo. So you asked me, why do I think it's so popular now? The
Hmm.
main reason I think that we've come back to the practice of voodoo and how it's been practiced traditionally throughout the centuries is because of the sense of community that voodoo brings. There's no such thing as a lone voodooiant. There isn't. You have to have a community to practice. And the reason you have to have a community to practice is we believe that not one person can do everything. Even though I'm a priestess, I can't do everything. There's absolutely no way. I need my community to not only foster the religion and, preserve our traditions, but to elevate the spirits that we worship in a proper way. And for that, a community is absolutely necessary. So when I, spread the word of voodoo, I don't want to say gospel, but the word, it's because I want to bring back that sense of community of, hey, we all want to learn together. We're here to serve the spirits together. Um, the spirits then help us with what we need them to help them with, and just how it integrates into your daily life. So that's why I think it's becoming more popular. Um, Also, Hollywood does drive a lot of people to want to know more about voodoo. And I don't mind it, even though I have to break down some stereotypes and people come to me through what they saw in Hollywood. You know, I'm used to it by now. So I'm like, come through, baby. You want to ask me about like you want to ask me about the surfing in the rainbow? Cool. At least we got this dialogue started. So I don't mind that at all. It's important.
I think it's important, exactly what you said, a dialogue. We're getting it started, and people are starting to ask questions versus assume and things like that.
Mhm.
Um, so and I know it's probably hard, but can you explain to us just some of the basic practices, like what I guess a lot of us here, come from a pagan background. Some people are Wiccan witches or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, and from my own perspective, I've seen some overlap of what's the difference between voodoo and say general neo-paganism.
Cool. So we believe in one central being, right? Which is a hang up to some people who come to this tradition through paganism. Like our central deity, God, is called Bondai, right? So we believe that Bondai is the number one God, right? Because Bondi cannot be bothered with the trivialities of humanity, he has given us the Mysterios or the Loa to help guide our wishes to him, right? Another one of the reasons that I absolutely love voodoo, and Chris, you can kind of attest to this, is our spirits have personalities. They get to know us on a personal level. Like I have on the colors today of Bele Bacon, which is Saint Michael, right? Like me and Saint Michael, Bele Bacon, we're like this because he knows me on a personal level. Like it's not just that we have this relationship where I come to his altar whenever I need something. It's like, hey, Papa Bele, I have to talk to you today. Like this is what's going on. I need your help, right? And when you have that close relationships with your spirits, like you live that life every day, it kind of brings everything closer. And I think that's how we used to live before we were shot down, like not just African spirituality, but like throughout the world. We live with our deities, our gods, our spirits every day in day-to-day life. Like there wasn't a disconnect where we see them 1 day a week or 2 days a week or only when we need them, right? They were there with us throughout our daily living process, and having that connection to your spirits is just like priceless. I fucking love it. So that's one of the similarities I see. Just getting back to like the hey, we do this every day and this is life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And for those of you who don't know, Jay is my voodoo uh, teacher and goddess
Andrea.
extraordinaire. Um, and so as you can see, you see the pink flower behind me. I'm wearing like a dark pinkish lens, like the dark pink, and it's for the goddess. Or would you say goddess, or would you just say
Spirit.
Loa?
She's a spirit. She's a
Parents.
Loa. Yeah, she's a spirit.
Yeah,
She's a Loa. We wouldn't consider her a goddess because remember, even though she is above us, she has that personal relationship with us, right?
right.
It's something that we try to break down when we do voodoo. We don't want you to think like, oh my God, I gotta kneel before the goddess because
Mm.
Maître Zélie would be like, get your ass up and talk to me for real. Like, why are you kneeling? So we
Yeah,
don't want that kind of relationship where we feel like they
we're
could crush
worshiping.
us. Right. They don't want to be worshiped. They want to work with you. They want to walk
Right.
like, and that is something that is indoctrinated through Christianity where we worship, worship, worship. And the Loa will tell you, like, we're not here to be worshiped. We're here to be served. We're here supposed to help you. You serve
Hmm.
us, we serve you. This is a
Right.
symbiotic relationship.
Right. And I think that's what a whole lot of people struggle with because, a lot of us come from Christianity and they're used to serving, they're used to bowing before the gods. And we don't do that here. But who we're talking about is this Loa Erzulie Freda, who is a spirit of love and
Luxury and the good life.
luxury and pleasures and
Just
all the
being
things.
beautiful. No
Yeah,
scrubs.
and so the Veve behind Jay is actually um
Her
the
symbol, or yeah.
her symbol for
There we
Julie
go.
Freda.
Uh-huh.
Um, so that's why I got the pink and things like that. One of the things I kind of so I have a huge thing about uh gatekeeping when there shouldn't be, and I have a thing about um basically gatekeeping, meaning not the mysteries, because the mysteries are important,
Yeah, I tell you that all the
but
time. Yeah.
exactly. And what I mean by gatekeeping is the people who say, "Oh, I can't teach you how to ground because it's a mystery." I'm like, okay, that's taking it too far. So, what's the difference between like uh, what gatekeeping, closed practices, especially in voodoo, where a lot of people are like, unless you're Black or Latin, you are not supposed to practice it. What is your take on that? What is your philosophy on
Cool. So let's get historical, shall we?
that?
So in Haiti during the revolution, a lot of the people that helped raise against the powers that be were of Polish descent. The Lady of Sheshua, the Black Madonna, is actually a representation of Danto that we use. And I say that because people on the island of Haiti that practice voodoo were not all of African descent. There were many mestizos. There are people of different colors. Even Metres Freda is a woman classically of light skinned African descent who was of mixed race, right? And she'll always tell you that I'm mixed race, but I'm still, you know, Black, right? Like she'll always say that to you. But it's important to know that the spirits choose who they choose. They do not care what color you are, right? They love you for your devotion to them and what you want to seek from the religion. So it's never a color-based thing. Um, as far as like gatekeeping in the religion, like knowledge, you just have to seek it, right? Like I always say, yeah, the spirits don't work for free. So there may be things that I have to charge for. Like we can't barter in canned goods anymore. This is 2024. So I'm not, charging because I don't want to barter, but the spirits don't work for free. Like I gotta get flowers, you gotta get alcohol, you gotta get cigars. Like that stuff adds up. But yeah, as far as like expressing knowledge, as far as learning voodoo, like if the spirits chose you, if they gave you a dream, if they're sending you signs, then they are obviously calling for you. And that's when I feel that people start to get lost in the sauce and start
Mm,
internet researching stuff because they're like, oh, I had a dream of Papa Leg, but let me research. And then they either hit a dead end where it's like a whole bunch of crap, TikTok, Instagram, like just people that do theatrics. And it's very hard to find a mentor because people don't go far enough down the rabbit hole where they find a mentor. They grab a book or two, um, and then they think they know everything. But there's literally no way that you can know everything in regards to Vodou. Even I don't know everything. It takes practice, it takes time, it takes dedication to the spirits. So I would say that there is not necessarily any gatekeeping. It's more like, do you have the force, the fervor to go down this rabbit hole with your mentor together? And are you dedicated? Like, are you committed to learning this? That's the biggest thing that I see from people. Like, they want to learn stuff on the surface level, but like, are you ready to commit? Right.
right,
And
right.
yeah, and commitment is like a scary word because they're like, oh my God, once I start, can I stop? Not even that. It's just like, how sincere is your level of knowledge, right? So sincerity to me is everything.
I think that's an important thing for people to understand because, I remember I've been a pagan for a long time. So I remember in the in the 90s, you want love, light a candle to Aphrodite. Uh, uh, you want health, light a candle to Apollo. And so it's so like transactional. Whereas, I mean, I don't think they think it's that way now, but to be honest, a lot of the people I know had a lot of for conversations with the voodoo practitioners about how personal the spirits are. So they took that back, and I think to neo-paganism. And so I think that one of the things that attracts me to voodoo is it's just how much of a connection it is. Not to say that other traditions but don't have a
Mhm.
connection, but it feels different. And I think, and I remember one of your teachings was a lot of the spirits used to be human, or a
Yes,
lot of the spirits worked very side by side. They weren't necessarily up in the ethers or heaven
exactly.
looking
Mhm.
looking down.
Right.
So can you explain a little bit more about what that personal relationship looks
Absolutely.
like?
So, I'm gonna start with the Loa, and then we can talk a little bit about the saints because they're both personal relationships. But let's take, for example, Ursula Danto, which is a spirit that is attributed to starting the Haitian Revolution, right? She started the Haitian Revolution because she felt so much pain for her children that she was just not going to take it anymore, right? And during the possession of a Mambo for the Haitian Revolution, um, Ursula Danto, as we know her today, was born, right? And of course, the Net Mambo then transition, Ursula Danto becomes a Loa, or a different version of the Loa, rather, because she existed before then, but that's a whole nother story. But anyways, so the spirits have that we call Loa, most of them have lived human lives, right? They're elevated spirits that have lived human lives and know exactly what the human experience is like.
Mm.
And I know we were talking about Freda, but let's talk about her again. She cries for humanity because she lived that life. Like she's seen people suffer. She sees seen people not live a good life because she was a woman of being kept because she was a light-skinned woman of African ancestry and she was considered, bourgeois, right? So she watched people suffer. And that suffering made her cry, like literally buckets of tears, right? Which is why one of our sayings is Ursley douse our house with lotion for blessings is basically give us your perfume, her tears, like they help heal you. But because they have lived that human experience, they can understand what you're going through. If you have a broken heart, she understands what a broken heart feels like. Ogu Hooray, who is a general, you're going through a battle. He understands what it's like to fight a war. He'll fight beside you with his machete because he understands what it's like to be in those trenches, you know? So it's kind of like when the Catholic Church had saints, which we also use in voodoo, they've been through saints are dead people, Loa are spirits, right? Like elevated spirits. That's the way we break it down. But they've all had that human experience. So it takes less explaining to them about what we're going through. They're like, I got it. I feel it. I've been there before, right? And I think that's what creates such a powerful relationship and why they work so well for us and with us is because they are able to, reconnaissance, like remember those experiences.
I want to ask you about the Catholic saints. So for myself, I was baptized Catholic, and I remember loving the statuary, the ritual, the frankincense, the whole and 9 yards. Instead, my father changed us to Presbyterian. And I was like, well, ain't that some shit? He took it all the fun, he took it all the magic out of
Right. Out of the experience, right?
exactly. And so one of the things I thought was very interesting about, you know, about how there's saints in voodoo. How did that even happen? How did Catholicism saints come into an African tradition?
Ooh, I love this part. All right. So, in order to be able to practice freely without the powers that be, the oppressors, the slave masters, whipping people who are practicing, Vodou, right? A process of synchronization began. And what synchronization means is this saint represents this loa. So if I have an altar to the Mata de la Rosa, that altar is to Ursula Freda. If I have an altar to the Madonna of Chechua, I have an altar to Ursula Danto. If I have an altar to St. James, I have an altar to Oguforai. So basically, it was like a way for us to go talk to the spirits out in the open without them being like, oh, they're up to something, because these are your saints. We're
Yeah.
saying these are
Yeah.
your saints. These are your saint prayers. We're doing what you told us to do. But these saints don't mean the same to us as they do to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, kind of like me, I rock my rosaries all the time. I'm in
Mm-hmm.
church almost every Sunday. You would think I was like the best Catholic girl in the whole wide world, right? But I'm really doing voodoo.
I just love how you said that, played in voodoo.
I'm doing voodoo. Like, you see me as church, I'm nailed at the pew, like, I'm doing voodoo. But you would never know it, right? And that's kind of one of the things I love. Like, I work in plain sight. Voodoo
Mm,
things are
mm,
unclockable, right? I don't have no jewelry. I might have a tattoo, but you got to see my leg. And then if you see my leg, then you got to know what it means. But either way, um, we're unclockable. You don't know what we're doing. We could be anywhere doing anything, right?
mm.
And so that leads to the being able to practice in plain sight without that kind of judgment, which I personally love so, so very much.
One of the things that people often ask, and I'm sure you've heard this 1,000 times.
Hmm.
Wolf, wolf, wolf. What's with the animal sacrifice, the chickens? What's with all that? What does that mean? Blah, blah, blah. And don't you think it's cruel? And blah, blah, blah. Um,
So cool. Okay, cool.
right.
So let's break that
You're like,
down a
here
little
we
bit,
go.
shall we? So back in the day, and many people don't know this, and this is how you learn the history of stuff, and the history of stuff is fun to me because you got to break it down a little bit. So when cruise ships take off, or any ship takes off, you hit a bottle of champagne over it, right? And you christen the ship. That bottle of champagne used to be a chicken, it used to be a goat, it used to be a horse, and it used to be an offering to the god Poseidon or the gods of the sea to make sure that the vessel was okay when it hit the water, right? So it used to be a blood sacrifice, not a bottle of champagne, but I digress. That being said, um, animal sacrifices are a part of so many religions, right? But it's not what we do every day. Like, I can do more with a candle and Metrozili's altar than I can do with a chicken, right? Like, save the chickens. You really don't need them. But if you
Save
need
it.
them, save the chickens, right? But you do need them, you need them. But that being said, people like to glorify parts of a religion that look gory or
Right.
mysterious or sexy because it's blood, right? But I am too cute to be covered in blood every day. I would much rather just go light a candle or a lamp or, anything that I could do. I don't want to kill a chicken. Like, are you serious? You know how much I have to go through to get a chicken? So anyways, that
Right.
means
It's not
it ain't
cheap to
easy.
take care of all that.
It's not easy, but it's it's a part of all practices, but it's not as much as Hollywood or people think it like make it out to be. Like, there's other ways that we can do things.
Um,
More than one way to skin a cat.
no, no pun intended.
No pun intended. I was like, let's see. Okay.
Um, one of the things I was taught by some friends who practice is that when there is a sacrifice of a chicken or something, that animal is well fed, taken care of. It's considered sacred.
Hmm.
And when it's um, killed, it's done quickly, humanely,
Hmm.
and as painless as
Possible.
possible.
Hmm.
And I wasn't told, I'm not I'm not sure if
I
it's
think I told you what you're about to say next about like how when we do some sacrifices, it's to feed the village. Like if
yeah,
we had to sacrifice it, then again, there comes the
yeah,
community, right?
yes,
Well, if we have to kill a cow for say Ogu, right? The
mhm,
whole village gets to eat beef for a week, right?
right,
It
right.
gets, everybody eats, and that's part of the community. Like the richness of what we do is if we have to do something extreme, everybody's taken care of.
And see, I think one of the things that someone pointed out to me is, someone freaks out about the head, and yet if you eat um, um, beef from a farm or a company, it's it's not taken care of. It's abused. It
Mhm.
has um, um, hormones,
Chemical.
and it's even
Mhm.
torture sometimes. And so
Mhm.
I, so I mean, if you're gonna use an animal, do you treat it in a sacred way or do you abuse it?
I mean, think about it this way. If I'm trying to clean you of a spirit that's tormenting you and evil, right? That's on
Mhm.
you, why would I beat the animal? I'm trying to cleanse you.
Right.
I need to cleanse you with the blood of love, safety, being taken care of, having a peaceful transition, right? If
Hmm.
I like, I'll give you a perfect example. Whenever I make, say, a powder that's supposed to be like get rid of your enemies, right? Like a definite to my enemy's power. I'll put two hornets in a jar, I'll shake them up and I'll make the hornets fight, right? Because I need that energy of they were fighting and now they're concentrated in whatever product I did, right?
Hmm.
But if I'm trying to cleanse you, I don't need that same energy.
Right.
I need that energy of, whew, that felt good. I am happy. I got a full tummy on me. I'm good. So yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things I kind of wanted to clear up for people who've heard things, who watch TV, who don't understand.
Mhm.
Um, so say someone wanted to really learn about voodoo, and say someone wanted to just check it out. What
Mhm.
would that look like for people? What are the steps they take? How do they learn? How do they find a teacher? What does that look
Yeah, that's the hard part. All right, cool. So most people go down the internet rabbit hole, right? And then they kind of stop there with books or whatever information that they find. Um, we don't have a who's who and what's what of Mambos and Ogons, right? Because we just don't do that. But there are plenty of sources online. There are Mambos and Ogons that have written books. You might stumble up on one through a recommendation of a friend. Searching social media is also very important, but the main thing is connect to a person who knows the craft, because voodoo is an oral tradition. You will never ever 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 find anything and everything that you need in a book, right? um because there are certain ways that we practice things that's pointed down orally for centuries, right, and is not written down. So you can start with a book, you can start with online research, but at the end of the day, doing your due diligence and research to find a mentor, however the case may be, is going to be what you need to do. So there are plenty of Facebook groups that you can join, where mambos and ogons and priests and priestesses and whatever answer questions. And I would just start there, like just kind of get your feet wet in some groups, do some research, grab some books, and then find a mentor that calls to you. And I cannot emphasize the importance of finding a mentor that you're cool with and that calls to you,
like? Hmm.
because that mentor becomes your godparent. Then you have a relationship with them where you come to them with a lot of your needs. Like if Chris has a need, he'll be like, Madrina, I need you to help me with this. Like this is going on. Like we're here to help you grow, like as a person. And when you're a godparent, you want your god kids to have the best life because they're a reflection of you,
Hmm.
right? Like, I don't
Mhm.
want nobody being like, my madrina is Jae Marie, and you out here looking like who shot John on the Thursday. Like, no. Like, if you say I'm your madrina, then you are an example of what I need you to be. Like, you're elevated, you're doing good. And if you're not doing good, then we're gonna get you where you need to be. But the point is that your godparent doesn't leave you out here alone. Does that make sense? Did that kind of answer it? Okay, cool.
It makes
Okay,
complete
cool.
sense. You know, I'm at, as far as because you've already taught me, but I'm asking for my audience because in case some people don't know. Uh, so what would you say is a I don't know a daily practice, a weekly practice of for a practitioner? What does that look like for
Oh,
someone?
so first of all, you would need to find out who is in your spiritual court. We start with your guardian angel, right? Because you just don't want to be out here building an altar to a spirit that doesn't work for you, or you don't have a connection with, or anything like that. Like, a lot of people start with Legba just because, TV, movies, and or Dumbala because TV, movies, and like Chucky is so annoying because people just be like, Dumbala, grant me the power. And I'm just like, really? We're doing this right now? Sure, whatever. Um, but we can talk. But just don't pick a loa and go with it, because that might not be the loa or spirit for you. So the first thing that I suggest is always getting a reading from a mambo or ogan to tell you what spirit you need to work with first, right? Then we start you developing your personal relationship with that spirit. And if other spirits come along, with other spirits, right? And then after that, if you feel like you want to serve the spirits to a higher degree, then there's initiation. And I just got done initiating 7 lovely souls. So I have 7 more godchildren. So I was tired, but it's a process. But yeah, primarily just finding out who is in your spiritual court is absolutely important. And we call that an ESCO reading, is where we
Mm.
read you and tell you. And Chris had one. It's pretty
I
painless.
did. I did have one, and it was so funny because you. It was so funny because we you did the reading. You're like, well, let's meet up for coffee or whatever, and you were like, oh, let me lay it out. And the first thing you said is, do you find yourself? Oh, I will never forget this. Do you always find yourself in a relationship? I'm like, okay, why is she
Okay.
trying to call me out right
Why
now?
is she talking to me right now?
Why is she clocking me right now? And you said you are you the type of person that people just naturally gravitate towards you? Absolutely, yeah. This like went down the list. Like, and the thing is, I had met you one time at the Parliament of World Religions once, and it was only at a panel, and so we didn't really get to know each other. And you're
Mhm.
telling me all these things, and you're like, "That's because your Loa is a
Freda.
certain
Mhm.
is
Absolutely.
Freda,"
Yep.
and 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 it felt like, of course it is. And the more I talk to you about her, the more I I research people, and I went on YouTube. I'm like, oh, what's your experience? And people were talking out of her. I'm like, oh my God, it's not even like, oh, it kind of fits. Oh no, it's like legit. So I can tell you all the people who are like, well, why do you have to um, um, have someone tell you? Because, well, first, I mean, you have the experience to see things I can't see, right? And
Right, and
and
that's
you
the
have those.
thing, like, you have to have someone tell you, because you may think, right? You may think you're an Ogu Foray. You may think you're a warrior. Like, I want to beat everybody ass. Like, I'm cocky. Like, everybody loves me. Like, I got fabulous hair. I just know I'm a Foray, right? So you start an altar to Foray and your life starts going to hell because you're not him,
Mm,
right? So then you have to ask somebody who's been through this, who recognizes the energy and currents of the spirits, who you are, because you do not want to F around and find out with the Loa, right? because they do have that personal relationship. It's like in grade school, like if you grab somebody's hand and you're just like, "You're my best friend," they're just like, I don't like you, I don't like you, I don't like you," and they start making your life a living hell. That's what it's like choosing a Loa that doesn't choose you. It's like you just grab somebody and you're like, "We're besties," and this person is like, "Absolutely not. I don't even know you. Like, why are we at the beach right now? Like, I don't
Why are
know
we at the beach?
you know, it's like they don't know you, so they can't help you. And that's another thing that's important. Your Loa is a reflection of you. You are a reflection of your Loa. If they don't know you, they can't help you through your daily life. Like how Freda helps you through your daily life, you know?
Mhm,
Like if she did not know you, she couldn't tell you how to do certain situations, right?
mhm,
So, like, having that personal relationship and knowing who your Loa is for real, who your guardian angel is for real, elevates your life because you think sometimes the voice in the head is you, and the whole time
right.
it's your material or your Loa telling you what to do. And you're just like, "Oh, I got a gut feeling about something." And children of Metro Z, 10 out of 10, we usually correct when we have our gut feeling. I ain't even gonna trip. If we ignore it and we get in trouble, that's another thing, but 10 out of 10, she'll let us know.
Mm. So what would you say to people who say, "Oh, I really want to learn about voodoo. I'm really drawn to it. However, I have spiritual trauma from Christianity, so I'm
Mhm,
struggling with the, the Catholicism in it."
mhm.
What's your advice for people to work through that?
Okay. My number one thing is the gag is on the Catholic Church, and if you have church hurt, think about basically throwing it back in their faces,
Oh,
kind of,
okay.
because now you have the power of a spirit who basically is syncretized with a saint or whatever, and you know the secret power behind using that spirit. Not necessarily against the church, but not with the church,
Mm,
right?
mm,
You're using it in their face in a different way. Like, yeah, that is the image that you may have trauma behind, but let's rebrand this image, right?
mm,
Let's make this old thing new, right? And that gives you a sense of power where you can hold your head high if you ever had to do a service at the Catholic Church and be like I'll give you a perfect example. St. Patrick's Day is Dumbala's Day, right? Church full of people, right? And I'm there for Dambala, right? I'm not there for anybody else but Dambala. I don't care about St. Patrick. Yeah, 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 whatever. I mean, my grandma was Irish, but that's a whole nother thing. But I'm here for Dambala, right? So all these people are just, like, yay, St. Patrick. And I'm like, like, yay, Dambala, Aya Bobo. Like, and I say Aya Bobo out loud in church. If you look at me, that's totally fine. You're gonna ask me about it, you're gonna figure it out, it's on you, whatever. Um, but like having that power, knowing that you're like amongst people doing what you need to do in secret, I don't know. It kind of makes me happy. I'm like, sucks to be you. I'm here for another reason.
mm,
Um, Another thing about like church hurt is reclaiming your identity, right? Because yeah, the Catholic Church has done many atrocities, but I feel the beauty in voodoo is we were like, all right, you know what? Mm, we're not going to let you use your religion and your God to mess us up. We're going to take what you gave us, switch
mm,
it all around,
mm,
and now we're messing you up. How's that feel?
mm.
So,
I'm taking this all in. I'm like, okay, I'm processing. I'm here for
yeah,
this.
it's a religion of the oppressed. And that's kind of why like people are like, "Oh, I have church hurt." And I feel the way. I'm like, I get it, but think about taking back your power, right? You give it away by saying, "Oh, the church hurt me," right? But you take it back by saying, "Okay, I'm gonna use this and I'm gonna make things better." Take back
You
your
know,
power.
I think that's a very powerful, 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 powerful thing, and I cannot say that enough. To just like you said, it's a tradition of the oppressed. It's about taking back your power. And I think that from my little experience of what I have with the Loa is that, you know, you're healing yourself, you're healing your trauma. Can you also like open yourself up to this beautiful spiritual tradition and learning and clean, what I call cleaning out the cobwebs of all the crap that people have taught you about, you know, the African spirits and sacrifice. You're like cleaning all that out and seeing the actual beauty, the magic, if you will, the healing. Because for me, all magic, all spirituality, all um, rituals, ceremonies, spells, even if it's to heal or to get a job, it's all healing. You
Mhm.
know,
Absolutely.
it's all
Absolutely.
healing. So, in the minutes we have left,
Oh, wow,
what do
time
you?
flies.
I'm telling you, um, what you want us to know about voodoo? Or are the spirits are telling you something to tell us? Like, what do you want us to know?
All right. So the first thing that because metrically, okay, I communicate through my lower through song, right? And when they play a song, it's telling me that it's something that's important that needs to be communicated, right? I'm gonna make a mixtape one day. It's gonna be a whole thing. Like Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm gonna do a voodoo mixtape. It's gonna be hot.
Love it.
But you know the Nirvana song Rape Me,
Yeah.
which is basically like taking back the power of being a victim of that, and how like you can tell me like you can do this to me, but yeah, go ahead and do it. I'm gonna beat you at your own fucking game. Keep doing it. I'm gonna win.
Mm,
So how we were talking about taking back power, that is something that Milo are talking about right now. Like, understand that this life is yours to live, and do not grant anybody access to take it away from you, or to take your joy, or to take whatever your mission is. Like, cry about it a little bit and then move on, right?
mm, mhm,
Um, so that's one of the messages that they're giving me right now. Another message is um, drop what you think you know and get
mm,
out there and learn, right? Like, even if you feel like, oh, you know, I'm not the hue for this, or I'm not ready, like all you have to do is start to dip a toe, and you begin to learn what you need to learn in order to excel. But to continue to make excuses for your own personal growth, like nobody's promised tomorrow today. So
mm,
if you feel the need to do something, go forth and just do it, because what's stopping you, right? And that's part of like letting go of oppression, because in
mm,
Christianity we feel like, oh my god, I really shouldn't do this because XYZ, right? And
mhm.
then we're like, do the thing, what's the worst that could fucking happen?
Right?
Either way, you changed the vibration, didn't you? Instead of sitting in the same vibration, because you never change a vibration by just sitting in it. You know the saying, if you sit and shit long enough, it stops smelling.
Hmm.
So you still sitting and shit and it don't stink no more, but everybody else is telling you your shit stinks, and you're just like, but I like it here. So pick yourself up and do what you need to do. And community, 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 right? We should be aware that the world is changing, and I totally get it. I'm an extroverted introvert, so I totally get it. Like, sometimes we want to be by ourselves, sometimes we want to practice by ourselves. We may have been hurt by a previous mentor, or again, church hurt. So we're like, you know what? I want to learn and I don't want a mentor, whatever. However, in this changing landscape of the world, we are going back to community, because think about it. In the ancient times, somebody that was left in the forest by themselves would surely die,
Yeah.
right? And if we're getting to the point where anything can happen in this world, I mean, if you want to go out solo dolo guns blazing, shout out to you. But I'd rather have somebody in my team that can sew a dress if I need it. You know, I can milk a cow. Somebody else can do the veggies, whatever. We're community. Let's get it together. So yeah, that's something I wanted to emphasize. But now they're quiet. So whatever y'all want to ask.
Just in the last few minutes, if anyone has any questions, type it in the chat. In the meantime, how would you suggest? So, you were saying finding a mentor, a teacher, sometimes it takes a second. In the
Yeah.
meantime, say I'm called, and I feel I'm calling, and I have found my teacher. I don't know who my Loa are. Is there something I can do at home in the meantime? Like, is there a prayer? Do I light a candle? Is there a cleansing? What should I do if I
Oh,
don't
good
know what to do?
question. All right, cool. So, the Loa, the Mysterios, the spirits, they talk to you in dreams, right? And that's how I meet a lot of my people that I help. They say, "Oh, Mambo, I had a dream and such happened in the dream." Perfect. We're almost there. So, pray the rosary, like the first do your Our Father, your three Hail Marys, the Glory Be, and then just ask the Loa in front of a lighted candle, preferably with a glass of water next to it, to reveal to you if this is your practice and to come down into your dreams, right?
Hmm.
Um, and they will. Happens all the time, or give you a sign, whatever it is. But basically asking the Loa if this is for you is the first step. So even if you don't want to pray the rosary, totally fine. Candle and glass of water is all you got to do. But as far as prayer, the rosary is the best.
It's interesting because in my clinical chaplaincy classes, I learned a a theological idea. So it's called. So a lot of people believe in one thing. Like if you're Christian,
Mhm,
you're pagan, you're Catholic, or you're Buddhist. They believe in that, and that's it. Since then you have pluralism. So you can say a pluralism says, "Oh, well, the divine is like an umbrella. It all leads to the
mhm,
same with divine source. It's pluralism." I learned a third term that's called a constructivist
mhm,
theology. A constructivist theology says how we even see the saints or the gods or the Loa or Jesus or Muhammad or Buddha, Apollo or Legba, whoever, we're seeing an energy or feeling an energy that's trying to communicate, and it
mhm.
communicates with us in a way that represents our hopes and fears, our culture, or whatever we think we know, our dreams, and so forth. And so we invent. I hate to say invent because I do think the spirits are a real thing, but we
Right.
shape them. We shape them. So, for example, how Frida appears to you may be different how she
Oh, absolutely.
appears to
Absolutely. Like your fears appear
me,
different to everybody.
right? Because I think it's based on, my own consciousness and blah, 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 blah. How I at first how I made peace with the saints is I realized those were constructs by the Catholic Church, and
Mhm,
kind of piggybacking off what you said originally, these are constructs, and I can reshape that image. So if we're saying Saint Michael or Saint Christopher or Saint
exactly.
Lazarus, which is one of my favorites, is Saint
Like,
Lazarus.
yep, St. Lazarus. Yep.
And so if we change that concept, because I'm not sure if you know who Christopher Pensack is. He once said, you get so far in your pagan practice, you just make peace with Christianity. It doesn't mean you're Christian, it means you make peace with it. So um
Exactly.
so there's a couple questions. One of the question is what is the relation between voodoo and nature?
Yay, I'll be glad to answer that. So, we have a Loa, a Mysterio. Her name is Martha La Dominadora. And basically, herbs are because the roots of everything go beneath the earth. I'm not going to give out too much, but we help the roots grow. So being in nature is very important with Vodou. We use our herbs for healing. We use our herbs to do certain workings with certain spirits, and it's an absolutely beautiful thing. So voodoo is completely connected to nature. Like a lot of voodoo saints know how to forage, you know how to recognize things in nature for what they are. Our potomatan is actually based off a tree. Like all of that is voodoo. So we have a very, very close relationship with nature.
That's awesome. Another question, I think it's going back about what you said about praying the rosary, lighting the candle. So the question is it the standard 5 decade rosary?
Mhm.
And then the follow-up is which mysteries?
Cool. So yes, you can pray like a 5 decade rosary. You can start there. Usually if I'm calling down a Loa, I only pray the first part of rosary and 1 decade. Like you don't need to do like all of them unless the law particularly requested. And the mystery is completely up to you. Like for instance, if I'm calling down, say, Legba, I just do a prayer to Saint Lazarus. I do his mysteries, I just do a decade of that. So whatever loa you're trying to call down would be what you need to do. But if you want to keep it generic because you don't know who you need, then you would just do like, you know, mystery of your choice. But yeah.
Mystery of your choice.
Mystery of
Dealer's choice.
Yes.
The other question is if one of the things I noticed about when New Orleans pays voodoo versus Haitian voodoo is how it's practiced. To your point, you talk about having a community where some priests I know in New Orleans do things more solo. Do you feel that as a do you feel that as a cultural difference between the two or more of a personal preference?
Here's the tea. I was born into New Orleans voodoo. So it is a preference. You can be solo if you want to, because you may not have access to the community, but you had to have learned from somebody. You didn't just go solo voodoo without having a mentor. Ain't gonna happen if somebody tells you that. God bless them, child, because anyways, so that being said, um, even your family is considered a community in voodoo, right?
Mm, mhm,
Um,
yes.
because when I was a little girl, it was just me, my grandma, and her sisters, and whoever else was around. It wasn't a big community, but it was a community. And that's why we say like you had to have had a mentor. Now, this is something that whoever asked that question may have to DM me about because it gets in length, but we have lineages, right? And basically, if you practice solo, it, it has to do with your lineage. But most of us have a community, and it's not culturally based; it's total preference and your
Um,
lineage.
we're about to wrap up. I want to know, are you able to like type in some of your information, email or
Oh, I'm trying
Facebook?
to chat. Oh, there's the chat. Okay, cool. So
Yes, so
I
people can
am
get contact with you,
Mambo.
ask you questions.
I am Mambo Jae Marie on Lord, I can't type because she got me with my long nails. So Facebook and Insta. Okay, cool. Boom, that one. If you want to email me, I am mamboj@gmail.com. Awesome. And now that I have a little bit of free time since I birthed 7 babies, I will be on YouTube doing my How to Work in the Cemetery with Voodoo channel soon. And I am Mambo J there too. So a
I was
lot of
gonna ask you, aren't you doing some in-person stuff too soon in
I
Chicago?
am.
Let's talk about
Happy
that because
August.
I've been trying to get you to do that for a long time now.
Yes, sir. Okay, so I will be back home in about a week or so. And then I'm going to post my class schedule. So please follow me on the socials. I'm going to post them. But I'm going to basically be doing some voodoo classes starting with 101, like an introduction to voodoo. Then I'm going to do like the saints, like how they are portrayed in voodoo. So we're just going to have a lot of fun classes coming up and some events. And yeah, I am totally excited for it. So, also when I do my cemetery work, I'm going to publish that as well because there's a certain way that we work in the cemetery. Now, some of this is going to require for people to have had their head read, like the escrow reading, so I know what spirits to work with, so I just don't lead you in there blindly. Um, so yeah, but I would suggest email me if you're thinking about that. Um, and we can go from there because some things that can be done on a basic level very easily, and then some require a little bit more training before I throw you to the wolves. So
Can I just say how much I appreciate you?
yeah, and I appreciate you too. This
I
is
love you
fun.
so much. You're a breath of fresh air, and I just love your energy, and I just love your just
You.
funness and your healing energy. I think there's a few people who I tend to gravitate towards teachers who just wreak healing, and you do.
Uh-huh.
And so I just want to say thank you for all the things
Always.
that you do, all the things.
Always. And everybody that's here or watches the replay, however, thank you for coming. Chris, thank you for being one of my favorite aikidos. I don't pick favorites, but I love you to pieces. Um, you are a testament of how Freda can change people's lives. And I'm just here for it
Hmm.
because she's known you less than a year, like, right?
Hmm.
And she came in like a wrecking ball and was just like, baby, this is what we're doing. So, and most spirits are like that. Like they just are just like, all right, cool. This house is not in order. What we got to do to fix this house? Let's get it.
Right? Well, that's one of the things I love about having your head read is that once you find your loa, it's like game on, let's get to work.
Everything makes sense,
Right.
right?
Absolutely.
And then things start falling in line. And I find that Vodou, once you know who your spiritual court is it I've had people who have left the therapy because they get better therapy through me and their loa than they do through a therapist.
Mm.
Because, therapists give you no shit on therapists, they cool people, whatever. They give you the usual, let's talk about your feelings, right? Like, let's talk it out. Your head spirit will be like, look, baby, get it together. Okay. Or we're going to figure this out together and then we're going to proceed on because
Mhm.
again, your spirits, your mysteries, they do not want you to sit in your shit till it stops smelling. They will not allow it. So a lot of my students, a lot of my mentees, um they were like, I don't want to, I just rather talk to you, mama.
Right.
That's what my phone is blowing up 24/7. I can't even go to dinner. You've been with me. My phone be dee, 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 dee. But that's because we offer mambos, ogans, mamas, bokors. Um, we offer a personal service because we're invested in you as a member of the community, right?
Mm, mm,
Um, when you come back to us, we want you to be shining, successful, right?
mhm.
Um, people that, you know, do this for a living, may not be that invested in you. I don't know, maybe they are, but I know I'm invested in my guy kids. And I make sure that they're living their best lives. And if we're not, then we're gonna figure out why they're not, and we're gonna get there.
That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you.
Another thing,
Oh,
don't
yes,
you know,
please keep
I got one
talking.
more question.
One more.
So one more. So since when people start their lives to voodoo, like a lot of our daily lives is worry, right? Like we worry if this is going to work out. We worry if that's going to work out. We don't know about our next steps or where this is going to happen, right? But I notice that when people start, practicing voodoo, they worry a lot less because they know that their spirits got it, right?
Mm,
And
mhm.
kind of like you know, when you had that thing you were doing a few weeks ago, I don't want to put your business out there, but she was like, it's already handled.
Right,
You worried about? Sure, it's already.
right.
And having that feeling, to me, is not even cocky. It's like my spirit's got it. I ain't even worry about it. Because I'm gonna give it up to them, I'll let them have it. It's not the same as giving it up to God. You know how Christians are like, give
Yeah.
it up, pray until something happens. You had to have done some work to get to that point where you can be like, my spirit's got it,
Hmm.
you know, and that is a form of being autonomous and taking back your power. So, yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That is amazing.
Thank
I'm so happy. All right. Thank you so much for being here. Our time, I actually went over almost 10 minutes because
Yeah,
everything
we
is,
talking to we was having a good time.
I know, this is amazing. I could do this all night long. Okay. So thank you so much. Thank you for everyone watching. And Jay, do you have any for departing words for us?
I do. Today is Thursday, so a hearty ayabobo. That's our way of saying amen and VooDoo. So hearty ayabobo to everyone. You have a blessed and wonderful evening. And again, if you need to contact me for anything, holla at me, holla at Chris. He will get back to me.
Yep.
Either way, I got y'all.
All right. Thank you. You all have a good evening.
All right,